Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to give a few minutes for attendees to join us. See several trickling in. I'll give it just a couple more minutes. Okay, looks like we have a good number of people joined, so I'll go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you for joining us today and welcome everyone for this information session on the Minnesota Dual Pipeline Training Grant. Today we'll have Madeline Martini, a dual training pipeline consultant at Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry, here to tell us about the grant, its history, its purpose, and how companies can take advantage of the training funds. And then following that, Andrea Carroll, a major account manager at New Horizons, will walk you through some of the courses available for IT training and talk about how New Horizons can help you get started in creating your training plan. So at any point during the discussion, please feel free to drop any questions in the comment section as they come up, as you have questions, and we will get to those at the end of the discussion. With that being said, I will hand it over to you, Madeline, to give us an overview of the program.
Awesome. Thank you, Tiffany. I'll just go ahead quick, share my screen. Welcome everyone. Thank you again to New Horizons for kind of giving us this opportunity to share more about the dual training pipeline and kind of how it can support the IT industry overall. Just a quick overview. So really, what is dual training pipeline and how does it support employers within Minnesota? So we consider ourselves a resource to employers to support building an earn and learn model. So further investing in employees' education while they're able to do or learn in-demand skills while working alongside others in the field and also earning that paycheck. The program began in 2014 with the established industries of advanced manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, and IT. The program currently has 82 eligible occupations within those 4 fields. And then this past July, the legislature did add 3 additional industries. We also house transportation, legal cannabis, and childcare. And then lastly, we do joke, pipeline is a acronym, as any government agency probably has. And pipeline stands for Private Investment, Public Education, Labor and Industry Experience. As mentioned previously, the model of the program is to pair structured on-the-job training activities, such as job shadowing or mentoring, and pairing it with formalized education. The related instruction has often been at community colleges, but definitely does not have to be. As will be mentioned here today, New Horizons has been one of the training providers in past grant sessions. And so the trainees are just able to attend instructor-led courses or programs that lead to a diploma, a certificate, all the way from an associate's to a master's degree, or on the flip side, the non-credit industry recognized credentials. So I know later in the presentation, Andrea will cover a lot of those certifications that are industry recognized that New Horizon provides that can be paired with a lot of the eligible IT occupations for this program. And then also just to note, by pairing the structured on-the-job training and the related instruction, it really leads to benefits for both the employee and the employer. As employers, you're often able to build and shape your own workforce. So as you are maybe growing as an organization, building new positions within your company, you're able to maybe support those who are already incumbent workers. You're able to create, a new skilled worker pipeline. So again, maybe backfilling anyone who's been retiring. workers are also, as mentioned before, earning a paycheck at the same time. So they're also kind of helping to produce the work for the organization as they're training. It does improve productivity as well as can often lead to a reduction of employee turnover as employees are building connections or building stronger professional partnerships within their organization that kind of help with the longevity. As a trainee or as the employer worker, the benefit is, they're earning a paycheck while also going back to school. So they're experiencing employment while getting job training. Oftentimes, but not always, someone is increasing their wages throughout the program or after the program once a credential is obtained. They're mastering in-demand skills and also leaving with credentials that can be, amongst different employers or upskilling for themselves in the industry. As a whole, the program, we kind of go about our work in three kind of buckets. So we host industry forums, which are offered around 3 times per year. This is where we discuss industry trends that are impacting workforce needs. These discussions really help support the research behind adding new eligible occupations to the program that, again, only impact the industry further. We host competency councils, which sounds fancy, but really it's an informal gathering of industry experts that are related to those specific occupations. During that time, we value the input from those in the field on, what skills are needed to be successful in that occupation or role. And then also it supports the creation of our competency pyramids, which I will discuss in a few slides ahead. And then lastly, consulting. So as consultants, we're always available to support employers as they engage with this model. Oftentimes we do run into employers who are already doing some sort of modeling of this earn and learn, whether it's through, mentoring or other things. So sometimes it can be familiar, sometimes it can be a foreign concept. And then we also understand that each organization is very unique. And so we want to make sure that our resources, our network, our support is really designed in a way that can work for your organization. Currently, the IT industry for the dual training pipeline program has 13 eligible occupations. What's really, really great about the IT industry is that these occupations that are listed are often found across different industries. So you don't have to just be an IT company. One of our actual largest users was healthcare provider, and they had IT needs. So just thinking a little bit more outside the box as well. And then something to mention is that you may not hire someone in this specific position labeled or titled, web developer or application developer. But really, if you're interested, I encourage you to look at the competency pyramids that we'll talk about in the next slide to see if your title at your organization matches maybe the competencies or the credentials, things like that go under that. So a lot of what you see on this slide for occupation titles are meant to be broad so that they can encompass what an organization may title or may fall under. So don't get discouraged just by their name. And then again, I know Andrea will cover a little bit more in depth about the New Horizons matching process with some of these occupations that are on here, and we'll share a link. For each of our eligible occupations, so this one on the screen is our web developer backend, you can find a coinciding competency pyramid on our website. So we typically describe this pyramid as a roadmap to being successful in the occupation. So this is something that helps guide the trainee and the grantee or the employer as they are building out this program or also tracking it for their dual trainee. On the top right is the occupation specific. So these are often competencies that are performed or learned during on-the-job training. So during that job shadowing, that mentorship, the next two, industry sector and industry-wide, are typically learned through the classroom or the related instruction portion. So again, these would be things that you would find throughout the certifications that you're looking for. And then the bottom three, workplace, academic, and personal effectiveness competencies, are often referred to as soft skills. And these are skills that either an individual would likely bring to the job or may be better refined as they're working through the program, working alongside others. And then lastly, the top left is intentionally left blank for employers to include additional competencies. So we acknowledge that not all organizations are the same. There's uniqueness, so there may be additional requirements that you'd like to include for your dual trainees instruction or on-the-job training, or other requirements that may be necessary to work in the field. And then just lastly, a really quick note that the items on each of the competency pyramids are in no particular order. There's also no need to complete all of the competencies, but a large majority should be covered during the time of the program. So these were, again, sculpted by industry experts along the way to say this type of skill would be very helpful to be successful in this type of role. I always like to mention that, we're always looking to add new occupations for the IT industry. And so some of the things that we're looking for when we're reviewing occupations, we look for 2 or more employers are stating a need. So again, we would appreciate any feedback that you have from us today or in the future of, hey, there's this particular occupation that is just showing immense growth and we're having a really hard time filling it. Let us know. It must offer a pathway to a livable wage. So we're looking at that $19.46 an hour. That's based off a family with 1 child, 1 full-time and 1 part-time employed adult. It's I think crucial to mention, they don't have to start at $19.46 an hour, but we're hoping through either wage progressions throughout the program or by the time they receive their certification or shortly after that they would be eligible to make a wage of somewhere around there. We're also looking that it's, an in-demand occupation. So again, we're looking at our partners from Deed and saying, hey, we see projected growth amongst the next 5 years, or we see a huge amount of, retirement in this occupation that we'll need to backfill. It must offer a career pathway. So we're looking for upward mobility. We don't want this to necessarily be the end position that someone could get. Maybe there's another credential they could add in years to come, or they could move up to maybe a supervisory role in the future. But we're looking not necessarily during the program by any means, but in the future that there might be growth. And then again, it must lend itself to the dual training model. So being able to attend school and also do that on the job training with the employer at the same time. Quick overview of just the step-by-step guide to kind of get started if you're interested. So review our IT occupations on our website. Determine, is there an occupation that you would like to hire or that your company is looking to have a future need. So go ahead, look on there, identify maybe what occupation or occupations you would like to choose. You would then contact myself at the as a consultant, and we would go through then steps 3 through 10. So we want to make sure that we're determining, what person in the given occupation needs to know to be successful. So we're making sure that it aligns with the occupations that we have available, as well as kind of the pyramids that are on our website. So those competencies. So we're just making sure, hey, if this is our guide to determine, what makes most sense for learning that on-the-job training, how might we find that? Who at the organization might be able to help us with that? So on this slide quickly, we're exploring, again, different related instruction providers. So today we've got New Horizons. So thinking through, who is going to help us provide that related instruction or that certificate credential that we're looking for. And can we review the curriculum to make sure that it matches kind of both the need for the dual trainee as well as for our organization. And then we're going to consider, what are those best approaches for on-the-job training? So when would they do this? When are classes for the related instruction? When could they work, part-time or full-time at our organization? And then who might lead that on-the-job training? So who could be someone that is shadowed or has time to kind of provide some mentorship along the way for the dual trainee. And then lastly, for this program, you can either use it as a recruitment tool and work with, individuals in the community to say, hey, come work for us. We're going to help you obtain this credential, or you can use it for incumbent workers. So you're upskilling the individuals that are already working for you. And then 10 is just to, you can either obtain the funding from the state, which we'll cover briefly, or, there are other local or, your own companies that could set up this type of earn and learn model. For individuals to determine if you are eligible for the dual training grant, you must either be an employer or an organization of employers. An organization of employers often is an association or sometimes commerce, groups like that. You have or will have a dual training program. So that's something that we would set up together. You're going to employ or will employ, currently employ or will employ the dual trainee. So the individual going through the related instruction and on-job training. You will enter into an agreement with a related instruction training provider. So again, New Horizon or a community college, things of that sort. If you are a organization that exceeded 25 million in revenue for 2023, there is a 25% match on the related instruction costs, which we'll do a breakdown in a few slides. If you make below, or if you made revenue below the 25 million, there is no match. And then just briefly, if you're a current dual training grant recipient or have in the past, you're still in good standing, or other Minnesota State grant programs that you are still in good standing. Some updates for the grant that are new this year. So again, it included our 3 new industries. Typically, the training costs or the grant would only provide support for required books and supplies. It has now been expanded to recommended books and supplies. This is from your training provider. So if they're saying that they need a particular book, or and in some cases, a certain tool, that could be included. There is a second funding category added this year. It's either 10% of what you apply for in the grant, or up to $15,000 to help in trainee supports. As a dual trainee, it used to be that you could only be an individual trainee receiving the support for instruction for 4 years. It has now been extended to say 24,000 in a lifetime. So each trainee can be awarded up to $6,000 each year to cover those tuition, books, and fees. If you're an organization of employers, so again, an association, you must identify your employers at the time of the application. There is a new online portal system for applying for the grant this year that saves your information for years prior. And then also there's a financial and capacity review that goes on. This is just a quick breakdown. Before it used to be an organization, so an employer could apply to up to $150,000 for related instruction costs. So essentially, if you had $6,000 per trainee, then again, there is the 25% match. The expenditures cover tuition fees, required or recommended books and materials, and then it can pay up to $6,000 per trainee. In addition, so technically, just to break it down, so if someone wants to go for a 4-year degree, they could get $6,000 each year, up to that max of $24,000, or not all maybe expenditures are up to that $6,000, so they could continue on up until they reach that $24,000. Trainee support costs, which are again those additional expenditures that might be like transportation or mileage, lodging, meals, anything that is connected to related instruction. So if they have to go on site to a particular school, it could help cover costs for transportation or tutoring services, interpretation services. This again is 10% of the grant request or up to $15,000. There is no dual trainee maximum amount. Okay, and then just a brief overview. So this again is the timeline. So contacting me if you're interested. We've got the dual training pipeline program that is set up to start in mid-March with the new occupations that will be available, as well as that is when the RFP or the grant opens. And just a quick overview that once the grant does open, awardees, it should close in mid-April. And then if you are awarded, you'll find out in May. In June, you would be setting up the grant documents. In July, you would sign the contract and have to know who your dual trainees are. So when you apply in between March and April, you do not have to know who your individuals are. You just need to have a number. And then you would go ahead and kick off the actual contract in August. With that, because I know I took a lot of time, I'll toss it back to Tiffany.
Great. Thank you so much, Madeline. That was a great overview. We did get a couple of questions before we go over to the approved classes. One of the questions was about whether state and local governments are eligible, and they are. I saw that Andrea answered that. So Minnesota cities and counties are eligible for training, as well as state of Minnesota employees. And someone also asked about CompTIA classes, and we do have several CompTIA classes that are eligible for the grant, which is a great segue into sharing some of the classes as well as the landing page that you can visit to browse classes and get in touch with us. So I will also drop a link to this page. And Andrea, if you want to tell us a little bit about the classes, you can go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So yeah, we've created a link that Tiffany said she'll post in the chat. That'll take you to what classes and certification are part of the grant program. So we make it really easy. And if you do have any questions, you can fill out the form here on the webpage, or you can even email me directly, and I'd be happy to get more information into your hands. So Tiffany, if you want to scroll down here. Yep, there we go. So under eligible courses, it kind of breaks it out into different categories. And under those categories are the actual classes. So if you click on a class, and Tiffany, I'll just have you click on any course here.
Yes, and someone
There we
asked
go.
about that specifically.
Perfect. So this takes you to not only the schedule of what we have the classes running, but an overview. And of course, different prerequisites that might be in there, what's covered in the class. These are all different labs and different topics for the week-long training. Also, it has an area in there for the exam. So when you're looking at classes, the classes have to lead to a certification, and these classes do. So when creating your plan, don't forget to add in that exam voucher. And again, I can definitely help you with that and get more information and plans over into your hands. But use this link for really detailed information on what classes and what certifications are approved. And if you'll notice, if you go back to the page, we even have a section, scroll all the way down, on the data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. This is a huge growth area along with cybersecurity. So if you have staff that are looking into getting into maybe the AI, machine learning, data, things like that, we've got you covered as well with the grant. Any questions? So this is a good site to bookmark.
Yeah, dropped it in the chat. Please bookmark it. And again, please take advantage of this contact us form, and that'll go straight to Andrea to get in touch with you to help you identify what classes, identify what job roles, and help you actually create your training plan and then go through the application with Madeline. One of the questions is, do you have to take the exam and not just the class? So what exactly includes a credential for the grant program? Madeline, you might be able to field that one.
Yeah, so we would have the expectation that someone would go through the actual training and also take the exam. So a credential does need to be obtained at the end, but we do have to have the related instruction portion, so that classroom led or the virtual led instruction as well.
And any other questions that anyone has about who qualifies or what types of classes are included, or the application dates or the process? Is there a link to the application website? So we do, on this landing page that I dropped the link to, link out to the FAQ page on the Minnesota Dual Training Grant. And it's the frequently, oh no, this, talk about real time. This is what happens when you go live. Currently working on this page, but Madeline, do you have the link to the application?
Nope, that is not live yet. That is mid-March. But I can drop in just their general page on there in the chat.
Great. And we will also be sending an email out to all registrants and participants with a link to the website as well as a recording of the video, so you can reference that as well. And then Andrea, if you want to drop your email into the webinar chat for everyone, that would be great too. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I'll give it just a few more minutes. Andrea has dropped her email address, so please feel free to get in touch with her. And if there are no more questions, then I will go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you both, Madeline and Andrea, for joining us today to talk through this. And we hope that everyone will take advantage of this great opportunity for all of your employees and your training needs. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.